Very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all the participants and the candidates for this NPTEL MOOC course. And the title of the course, as you know, is Application of Forecasting, Regression and Time Series Model. And my good name is Raghunandan Singh Gupta from the IME department at IIT Kanpur. So, as you know, the total set of 3 broad areas for this course is forecasting, number 1, number 2 is regression models, and the third one is time series analysis. And as you know, we are in the second week and the coverage will continue as it is in the area of averaging techniques and forecasting methods. So, this is second week 9th lecture which we will just start. What is the coverage? Now, the coverage would be different concepts of averaging techniques, and I suppose that it will continue in the next class also, which will be the 10th one. Now, what we mean by averaging techniques is like this. So, I will just try to highlight it. So, in general, a weighted k point moving average. Now, the concept of k or the symbol for S or the symbol for M do not confuse with the mean. So, they will be very relevant for the case of forecasting technique, where K, S, M will have different connotations which will be clarified as we proceed with the examples. So, let me continue reading it. Is basically a weighted k point moving average and can be written, and watch it carefully. So, we want to basically forecast. So, TT is basically FT, which is the forecast one, and as you know, Y with the corresponding suffix is the actual value. So, considering that you have the past data and you want to basically give a weightage is to both the past data to some extent, and the idea is like this. I will draw a scale diagram and clarify the corresponding fact. So, consider you have the values of y and this is the timeline. So, consider y0 is here, for which you want to basically forecast for the next time period. So, the 90 period would depend on what are the different type of lags you are considering, and the lags concept we have considered initially for the autocorrelation concept. We will again revisit it here. So, and the corresponding values further on is y1 and it continues till, say for example, yt plus m, and if I go backwards it will continue till yt minus m. So, this is plus m and minus m. Now, what we want to do is that we want to give weightages to all these values in order to predict for the corresponding place of y naught or y0 at some subsequent future time. So, let me consider the future time using a different coloration. So, I want to basically predict here. So, what I want is basically I would like to give weightages. Now, the concept of weightages would be clarified as we proceed. So, what are the weightages? I will use the red color to clarify. So, the weightages for y naught will be A1, A naught. For y1 would basically be, this would basically be corresponding to A1 and continue till the case when you have AM. And if I go backwards, the values would be A minus 1, minus or 0 or plus 1 is just the suffix to denote the weightages, and the last value would basically be A minus m. So, on the left hand extreme you have A minus A suffix minus m, and on the right extreme you have A suffix plus m. Now, what you want to do is that you want to multiply the weightages with the corresponding actual value. So, this is what you do. You basically multiply yt minus m with A minus m, A suffix minus m, which is here. Then correspondingly you continue The next value where I will highlight is A naught multiplied by Y naught, A suffix naught and Y suffix naught, which is coming from Y0, and you continue giving the weightages, multiplying the weightages. And the last value which I am trying to highlight using, say for example, the blue color is basically A suffix plus M multiplied by Y suffix T plus M, which is here. One important thing to be remembered here is that the sum of all the weights should always add up to 1. Now, it is not sacrosanct the sum is 1, it can change, but there should be some rules and regulation based on which the constraint would be modeled accordingly. So, what we should have is the sum of the weightages corresponding to A suffix minus M plus dot 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 plus A naught plus dot 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 plus A suffix M is equal to 1 as illustrated here. Now, if I want symmetric weightages, which would mean that the weightages which you are going to give corresponding to A suffix minus M and A suffix plus M should be of equal value. And if you can extend your thought process and analyze, it will basically turn out to be that you are giving equal importance to the values. Now, the question may suddenly arise from your end is that is it always necessary to give equal weightages? Answer is no. We will see that, because a very intuitive and a very relevant question from all of you can be that why not give more weightages to the just immediate value and decrease the weightages as you go more into the past, and that is the concept we will try to utilize later on. So, the diagram which you see or the slides which you see is basically the concept of weighted moving average, such that number 1, we give weightages to each values of the actual value y, and also ensure that the sum of the weightages is equal to 1, and based on these two we will basically consider the different type of moving averages concept in details. Now, let us give all the nuances of different type of moving average weightages, and they would be clarified as we proceed. So, consider first we want to find out 4 into 4 moving averages. Now, these two 4s have significance. So, what is the first 4? The first 4 which you have is basically you are taking the moving averages for 4 months. And what is the next 4? The next 4 is basically you are trying to find out the averages of such 4 number of averages together. So, technically you are trying to give the weightages according to the fact that first a block of 4 would be taken, and then such blocks 4 in number will be taken in order to find out the weightages. So, that will be known as 4 cross 4 moving averages. Now, the question may arise that can it be 3 cross 4, can it be 3 cross 3, can it be 2 cross 6? So, there can be different ways of trying to find out the moving averages. First, we will highlight 4 cross 4 and then proceed accordingly. So, in the first block of 4, which I will denote by 4 moving average 1, and y1 is basically, if you note down, we are taking the average value in a block of 4, considering the values are y1, y2, y3 and y4, which means we are giving weightages of 1/4 to each of the actual values starting from y1, y2, y3 and y4. Now, what does the second 4-month moving average number 2 imply, and use a different color? So, if I consider the 4-month moving average 2, this means that you are just shifting that block by 1 unit, and if you pay attention you will find out now we are basically adding up y2, y3, y4, y5 and taking the averages for y2, y3, y4, y5, giving equal weightages of 1/4 to each. Similarly, if I consider for the third, which is 4-month moving average number 3, we have again shifted by 1 unit, Hence, we are taking the average of y3, y4, y5, y6. That means, we are giving weightages of 1/4 for all the values starting from y3, y4, y5, y6. And the last one, we are taking 4-month 4, which we have again shifted the block of 4-month or 4 values taken together, and they are y4, y5, y6, y7. Hence, the weightages given for y4, y5, y6, y7 are all 1/4. Then what we do is that we have already taken 4 such blocks, and then we find out the averages of these averages. When we do that, now note down, we will have the first block which is coming here. I am using the color scheme, so it will be easy for us to understand. This is the first one which we have considered here. The next one is y2 to y5, which we have considered here, which is 4-month moving average 2. The third block is y3 to y6, average of that, which is 4-month moving average 3. And the last one we are considering is y4, y5, y6, y7, average of that, which is 4-month moving average 4. Once we take the average of that, this is what happens. We have, so there would basically be in the denominator 16, because you are taking 4 cross 4, 16. So, what is the weightages we are going to give for the first value, which is y1, which would be, I will use the black color accordingly. So, the first value which will be coming for y1, and if you can note down here, will be 1 by 16. Similarly, when I take the value of y2, the weightages would be 2 by 16. Similarly, when I take y3, the weightages will be 3 by 16. For y4, the corresponding weightages will be 4 by 16. Then, if I consider the corresponding weightages for y5, it will be 3 by 16. When I consider the weightages for y6, it will be 2 by 16. And finally, when I consider y7, the weightages will be 1 by 16. So, if I consider all the weightages summed up, it will be 1 in the numerator will be 1 plus 2, 3, 3 plus 6 is 3 plus 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 is 10, and then again plus 3 is 13, 13 plus 2 is 14, 15, 15 plus 1 is 16. So, 16 by 16 is 1, hence the weightage is 1. So, here if I consider, we can basically have the 4-month into 4 moving averages. Now, if I consider the corresponding weightages for 5 into 4 into 4, which is basically we will take 4-month moving average first, then find out such 4 blocks to find out the averages, and then continue doing it 5 number of times. So, and obviously, the weightages can be found out accordingly. Now, the question may suddenly crop up in your mind that if we continue doing it, then any aberrations or any fluctuations are basically being smoothened out. That means, we are trying to basically find out more of the trend or the average value rather than the actual value. The intuitive feel would be yes, we are trying to do that, because the trend would give us a good idea that what would be the average increase and decrease of the actual value when we utilize the concept of forecasted value, and the idea of variance would be calculated accordingly. So, here we have taken 5 cross 4 cross 4, and the weights are given such that if I add up all the weights, here the weights I have considered as a suffix minus 2, a suffix minus 1, a suffix 0, a suffix plus 1, and a suffix plus 2. So, hence the weightages actually should add up to 1, considering the idea of the moving average is followed. Now, let us do an example, and I will show the diagrams. Before that, I will show different ways of calculating the moving averages, which will be utilized when we specify the diagram and the figure. The data given is the number of number in 10 to the power 5 or in lakhs of worldwide international air travel passengers for the year 1949 to 1956. And using this data, we need to find out the following. 3-month moving average, 5-month moving average, 7th moving average. Then the 4th and 5th is 2 cross 4 and 2 cross 6. So, 2 cross 4 means we have 4 month and then trying to find out the average of such 2 blocks, hence it is 2 cross 4. When it is 2 cross 6, we are trying to find out the average of such block of 6 and then trying to find out the average of such 2 blocks. And finally, if you see the 6th one basically gives us 3 cross 3, that means we find out the average of 3 such values and find out the averages of the average taking such 3 blocks. So, 3, 3, 3, consider 3 times. And in the case of 5 cross 4 plus 4, it will basically be first we take a block of 4, find out the averages again 4 number of times and repeat that 5 number of times. And here basically, as I have just mentioned few minutes back, it will be more keen to finding out the average trend. Now, here is the data. So, the data gives you, I will just mark it. So, you have the month in the first column, then the month is also given in the third column, month is given if I go to the second panel data, it is given in the 5th column and it is given in the 7th column. And the number of passengers, if you remember, for the corresponding number of years which was mentioned, is given in the 2nd, it is given in the 4th, it is given in the 6th and given in the 8th, and utilizing that we will try to basically find out the moving average. Now, if I am talking about the moving average, we come to that later. If I want to find out the 3-month moving average only once. So, in the case if I consider January, February, March and I will use a different color. So, if I want to find out for January, February, March, the values are 112 plus 118 plus 132. So, divided by 3, I can find out the values accordingly. Now, if I want to find out the moving average, 3-month moving average considering 3 number of times. So, let us consider the data set such that it is, say for example, April, and I will highlight it accordingly here, and the data is 135. Now, if I consider the 3-month, first block would basically be considering 126, 141 and 135. So, the first block I will denote as 1, first block, and the values will be 126 plus 141 plus 135. Remember, we are trying to find out for April. So, that means April, if I consider here, the values are like this. For April, APR, for the month of March, MAR, for the month of February, FEB, the values are given as 126, 141 and 135. So, this is the first block of 3 months. Now, I shift the block right hand side by 1 unit. So, I will use the different color. See, for example, I use the blue one. Now, the block is like this. So, the block is now 141, 135 and 125. So, that means now April month is in the middle. So, the second block would be like this. The month of is 141, which is March, 135, which is April. Now, April has come in the middle because we are trying to basically find out the forecast for April, and the next month is after April comes May. So, the value is 125. So, May. So, the values would be, so this one is 126, I will mark it with the violet color, 126 plus 141 plus 135 by 3 would be 3 MA1. That is the first block. And the average of 141, 135 and 125 would be 3 Ma2. So, the value if I consider, so this value comes out to be, I will write it here in blue. So, this would be 5 plus 5 is 10, 10 plus 1 is 11, 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 plus 4 is 10, 1. So, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 401 by 3. Similarly, for the first block, so this would basically correspond to 3 Ma2. Similarly, if I have the first block, which I should have done earlier, but I will do it. So, 5 plus 1 is 6, 6 plus 6 is 12, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 8, 9, 10, 0, 1, which is 402 by 3, which will basically be 3-month moving average block 1. And the final one, because it is 3 cross 3, the final one I will use, say for example, the orange color, let me use the red, dark red color. So, this would now 135, 125 and 149. So, this is the third block. So, that would be months of, this would be April, it will be May and June, and the values are 125. Next one is basically for April, it's 135. Let me erase it, it's not looking nice. It is 135, for May is 125 and June is 149. So, if I consider the 3-month moving average, the third block. So, if I denote it, it will be 9 plus 10, 19, 19, 1, 4, 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and this is 409 by 3. So, this would basically be the 3-month moving average 3. So, if I want to find out, I basically have to find out the averages of the averages, and hence the again I am repeating the 3-month moving average 1 is 402 by 3, 3-month average 2 is 401 by 3 and 3-month 3 is 409 by 3, and utilizing that we find out the averages of the average, which will give me the 3 cross 3 month moving average. Now, the question would be that why did I take in such a way in order to predict for April. So, if you remember, in the first case for the block, it is February, March, April. Then in the next block, April is in the middle, which means March, April, May, and in the last block, April is in the left, is April, May, June. That means the weightages of April is being there in each of the 3 blocks, 3MA1, 3MA2, 3MA3. And corresponding to that, we can extend it for 4 month also, 5th month also, 6th month also, and correspondingly consider 2 cross 6, 3 cross 5, 4 cross 4 cross 4, anything can be considered, but you have to be careful how you take the blocks accordingly. Now, we will proceed. I have shown the calculation using the values. I will just state the formula, and it can be utilized anywhere once you are careful that how you are forming the blocks. So, continuing with the example. So, 3 month for y naught, which is the middle value, only the middle value, and you are taking only once. It will be standing at y naught, you have y plus 1, you have y minus 1, hence it will be y suffix minus 1, which is the left value if I am standing at y naught. Then add up y naught value and then add up y suffix plus 1 and divide by 3, considering 1/3 weightages or equal weightages are being given for each of the values. Now, if I consider the 5 month moving average considering for y naught. So, considering that you want to find out for y naught, so there will be two subsequent values on the left, two subsequent values on the right. So, the subsequent values on the left will be y suffix minus 2, y suffix minus 1. The central value where we are trying to find out is y naught, and the corresponding right hand side values are y suffix plus 1 and y suffix plus 2. Hence, you add up all these values, divide by 5, hence you are giving weightages of 1/5 to all these 5 individual values. If I consider the 7-month moving average for y naught, so you will basically move 3 blocks one at a time to the left, 3 blocks one at a time to the right, considering y naught is also there. So, the values are y suffix minus 3, y suffix minus 2, y suffix minus 1 to the left, y suffix plus 1, y suffix plus 2 and y suffix plus 3 on to the right. So, plus means that you are basically proceeding in the time frame, and the central value is y naught. You add up all these 7 values, divide by 7 as you can see, hence you are giving equal weightages of 1/7 to all of these 7 individual values. And remember, the highlighted color basically means for which value you are trying to find out the moving average, and here in all the examples is y naught. The moment you change y naught to y plus 1 or y minus 1, you can just change the values correspondingly, but be careful that how the shifts of the blocks have been considering, that whether you are taking 3 month or 4 month or 5 month or 2 cross 4, whatever the case may be. Now, let us proceed one step further, which we have already discussed in the example for the passenger number, but basically numbers for the number of years which is given, yearly passenger numbers for an international travel, but I will highlight it using the suffix of the actual value is y, but the coloring scheme which we will see in the slides basically will make all things clear to you and how the weightages are being given. So, I am considering a 2 cross 4 moving average considering y naught. So, now consider when you are taking the y naught, very interestingly, we consider 2 such blocks of 4. Hence, the blocks are taken in such a way that I will use the orange color, violet color here for the, let me color same color red. So, you are considering the block considering y minus 2, y minus 1, y naught and y plus 1. That means, y naught has 2 values onto the left and 1 value to the right. Find out the average. So, that means you are giving equal weightages of 1/4 to y suffix minus 1, y suffix minus 2, y suffix 0 and y suffix 1. Now, for the second block, because it is 2 cross 4, your values you are taking is now y suffix minus 1, y naught, y suffix plus 1 and y suffix plus 2, which means that you have just moved that whole block one shift to the left. Hence, y suffix minus 2 is taken out of the picture, y suffix minus 1 remains in the picture, y naught obviously will remain in the picture, y plus remains in the picture, and the new entrant of the value is y suffix 2. So, hence you give equal weightages. When you combine them, the total weightages would be corresponding to the fact that the denominator is now 8, because you have taken 2 cross 4. Now, the corresponding weightages for y minus 2 is 1/8, I am circling it here. Weightages for y minus 1 is 2/8, weightages of y naught is basically, this should not be there, is 2/8, weightages for y plus 1 is 2/8, and finally, the weightages of y plus 2 is basically 1/8. So, if you sum up all the weightages, they add up to 1 as it should be. So, hence you are giving the maximum weightages to y suffix minus 1, y suffix naught, y suffix plus 1, and you are doing reduced weightages because they are further down of weightages of 1/8 to y suffix minus 1 minus 2, which is on the left, and y plus suffix plus 2, which is on the right. So, considering this, we will end this class here and continuing more discussions in the subsequent classes or sessions for week 2. Thank you very much and have a nice day.